Shalom to the elect, giving all personality glory to Yahweh by Shem Al Shai, by Shem Al Kodash, and giving double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of the Great Millstone. Well, peace and salutation to the elect. Shem Al Mappa is a Mappa for the Great Millstone Plaintables Camp of Philadelphia. Another wee lesson here. TSA, which is Transportation Security Administration, announces, which that's a agency within the Department of Homeland Security. Hey, that was created after you had the 9.1.1 right event, and it brought in more and more stricter security with travel. They announced that $45 fee for travelers with no real ID. Now, if you know anything about the real ID, in the United States, they have passed way back in 2025 with the Real ID Act, established minimum security standards for state issue IDs. And this has technology and within it, making it harder to falsify identities, that people would use in presentation of ID cards, right? So the Real ID is a federal state standard state issued driver license and identification cards that set minimum security requirements. All right, so since May 7th of 2025, a Real ID or another acceptable form of federal identification, like a passport, is required to board federal regulated commercial aircrafts, access to certain federal facilities, and enter into nuclear power plants. You can identify a Real ID by the gold star in the upper right hand corner. And you had to have certain documents to be able to acquire one, right? Such as birth certificate, passport, permanent resident card or green card, proof of a social security card, or a W-2 form, proof of residency, utility bill, or a lease or rental agreement, documentation for name changes if that applies to you. And you had to go to the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, another agency or equivalent agency, to apply and show your documents in person. Right? You got other, of course, pre-file qualifications as well. But this act definitely is changing a lot of things. In travel and the way people are able to go into and fro domestically in America. So travelers, I'm gonna just play this video in a fair use warning off of ABC News, and this is owned by ABC News, but this is for educational purposes only. All right.
At airports nationwide, it might cost you an extra $45 to fly without a Real ID. TSA now bumping the cost up after announcing last week it would cost travelers $18.
The fee was necessary because we needed to modernize the system. We needed to make sure that the system is safe.
Flyers without a Real ID can pay the fee online before arriving at TSA checkpoints. They'll get an email to present to the TSA officer.
So if you get to the airport and you don't have a Real ID or another acceptable form of ID, and you haven't gone through the online verification process, and you happen to make it all the way to the TSA checkpoint there, they may pull you out of line and go through a verification process that could take up to 30 minutes and cost you $45.
TSA officials say that fee covers the costs of modernizing the agency's identity verification program, which will be used to analyze a traveler's biographic or biometric information to verify their identity.
Right, which that's what it's all about. Biometrics, the body measures and to authenticate who you actually are. Retinal scans. We all know about that. With re-entering into this country. I know about that, using the passport and the retina scan and such like that. I think you can pass on that and go to a physical agent and opt out in certain cases. Don't quote me on it. But you know, these things are what they're using to authenticate a person instead of just that ID itself. All right, they're tying your biometrics, okay, which is unique to you, to your identity, okay. Verification that we're talking about, okay. You have it where you had fingerprinting, okay, which most people would know about, okay. But this is up in all of that, you know, um, with this technology. Where meaning you're not just gonna go and just give some piece of or basically just somebody can have a card printed out for you and you could just go about. Well, you have it where you say this is all with your biometrics, which they have that, okay, that and such. Pardon the noise in the background, by the way. All right, so they pushing the fees, okay, on the individuals, okay. So if you don't have a real ID, which they had a federal mandate, which certain states um and which I believe they had it where on May the 7th, 2025, if you had to go through TSA, they said basically you had to have the real ID, but I believe they pushed it back, okay, which so you have it where that is the effective date, but I believe with this it was pushed back. I have to get that information, okay, because they had trouble with everybody getting it and such. And there's certain states are fighting against that adaptation across the board. All right. So you can check into this. I have to get that information though, and it's a lot. Right. So this is not a delay that you would have if you had to pay this fee and go through this whole process where you would have to basically authenticate and that card is is regulated by the state and federally recognized already with the ID cards and the regular ID cards and driver license. So you just have to say, well, why? How come we have to up it up? They want this information, and they moving towards the digital system, the complete digital system. Okay. Agency warns that even then, there's no guarantee that individuals will be cleared to cross through the security point. So you can even go through these different, pay these fees and such, to try to bypass having a real ID. But they can still deny you from being able to go to board your flight. Okay. They need to verify for who you are. Okay, as they're going into. All right, now it says the agency says around 94% of travelers are already using real ID or another acceptable form of ID. Okay, but they pushing just towards you getting verified, them getting that information, and you complying to getting this particular technology. All right, because the real ID definitely has our RFID. They say it don't, but I've heard of that. But hey, we'll continue forth. Okay. So, but we all know what everything is pushing towards. Okay. So ultimately the C hip. All right. So this is another update in the gradualism, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the gradualism. They're gonna make it more difficult, for a people. Okay. Where things was very simple. Okay. So let me get this First Corinthians. Let me see here. This blue letter. 1 Corinthians 2 and 11. I'll even get this. 1 Corinthians 2 and 7. And it says, but we speak the wisdom of the power in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom which Yahweh Shem Shai ordained before the world unto our glory. All right, and we do speak the mysteries of Yahweh Shem Shai, the mysterion, all right, the hidden things, the secret counsel of Yahweh Shem Shai. Okay, we give you the counsel which the Lord gave us, certain secrets which are not privy or confided to regular individuals. You have to have the Rakakodash, the Holy Spirit, all right, to receive this truth 100%. But we speak the wisdom of the powers and a mystery, even the hidden wisdom, which Yahweh Shem Shai ordained before the world to our glory. And it's a glory to have this information, to know what is coming before it comes. Okay, we know about the C-HIP coming. Just look at the different ways where they're putting the fees, making you subject onto payments. Okay, just to be able to eventually put the C-HIP in you. Okay, and having total of authentication of your identity. Okay, now they want to know where you at all times, and a card ain't gonna be enough. Okay. So we know what the MOTB is and such. This isn't the MOTB. This is just gradually moving up to that. Okay, that technology. All right, so real quick, this is Baruch chapter 3 and 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, us Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, Israelite foreigners, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God. All right, and this is another form of a payment. Okay, you don't got no real ID, $45. Okay, and hey, this will take you through a whole process. You gotta go do a as they say, a pre-check, as it would go into, with an email, then to show to them. Okay, so let's go again, starting February 1st, 2026.
TSA now bumping the cost up after announcing last week it would cost travelers $18.
The fee was necessary because we needed to modernize the system. We needed to make sure that the system is safe.
Yeah, so they modernizing the system to today's technology, okay, which they're advancing quickly to the C-HIP, okay.
Without a real ID can pay the fee online before arriving at TSA checkpoints. They'll get an email to present to the TSA officer.
So if you get to the airport and you don't have a real ID or another acceptable form of ID, and you haven't gone through the online verification process, and you happen to make it all the way to the TSA checkpoint there, they may pull you out of line and go through a verification process that could take up to 30 minutes and cost you 45 bucks.
TSA officials say that fee covers the costs of modernizing the agency's identity verification program, which will be used to analyze a traveler's biographic or biometric information to verify their identity. But
which this is getting more information. Okay, more information, to authenticate who you are.
Even then, it's not guaranteed they'll get through security.
It's really all about security. It's really all about making sure that we have the safest system.
All about control.
And making sure that we know who's processing through our airports and getting on board our flights.
Well, that $45 fee will cover TSA checkpoint access for a 10-day period and can be used multiple times in that period. TSA officials say the best way to avoid the fee and any possible delay at the airport is to get a real ID.
Right. And you got alternatives, passports, enhanced driver license, global entry, or military ID. Okay? You know all of that. Has that information stored. Okay, so that's basically that through the spirit. I'm going to give all praise and honor glory. How about Shema Shai, B'Shem Kakadosh, and double honors to our apostles and elders, a great millstone, peace, citation to the elect. Yeah, you can see what even the cost is per state, maybe. Cost of a real ID. So, a cost of a real ID here, where I'm currently, is this. They saying $30 one-time fee, right? But it says plus standard fee for a driver license or ID. If you are renewing your standard license and requesting real ID at the same time, it will cost basically $70, $69.50 a real ID fee plus a $39.50 renewal fee, according to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And there is no additional fees for real ID when you renew your license. So, when they once you got it in, hey, you don't have to worry about that fee. Okay, so it's actually encouraging you to get that upgrade. All right, and remember, you have that the validity of the license or that ID. Okay, current renewal fee is $39.50 for 4 years for a non-commercial driver license, or $42 for a photo ID, $42.50. So, and that's just Pennsylvania. I want to see by state. Okay, but that's it. Shalom to the elect.